Specifically, we're going to talk about equations of circles today, all right? We all know what the equation of a line looks like, right? Y equals mx plus b. You can see it from, like a mile away. And you're like, oh, that's the equation of a line. When you graph that, you get a line, okay? If you graph a quadratic function, x squared plus blah, 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 you get a parabola, right? So we learn to recognize that. You see a quadratic equation, and you're like, oh, when you graph that, you get a parabola. Each shape in math has its own equation. And today we're going to learn about equations of circles. Okay, the equation of a circle in its full glory looks like this. Oh, okay. Here we go. It looks like that. Okay? That's the equation of a circle. X minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Now, what are characteristics of a circle? Like if you have a circle, what are the characteristics of a circle? We always name its center, and we always need to know its radius. Okay? This equation tells us both of them. H and K, these numbers H and K here, are the coordinates of the center of the circle. And this number here gives us the radius. This is the radius squared. Okay? Okay, so where does it come from? Okay, so let's take a look at where it comes from. This is the center of the circle, HK. This is a point, this blue one is a point on the circle. Okay, so you know what I want to do now? The radius is the distance between the center and that point on the circle. Is that right? Let's write down the distance formula for that. So what's the distance formula? It's the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared, right? If I square both sides, what do I get here? D2 is d squared is x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Is that right? So this distance is the radius. And that's equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. So now let's write that using these. In this case, this is x2 and this is x1, right? So what will that look like? X minus h squared plus y minus k squared. And look at that. Is that not exactly what this is? So that's where it comes from. Okay? Yeah. Why does equal r? Huh? Why does d squared doesn't? D is the distance between this, and that's the radius of the circle, isn't it? D is the distance from the red point to the blue point. And that's also the radius of this circle. Yeah. So that's why I said D is just R. So this is D squared, which is R squared. Okay? Yeah. Yeah.
So are H and K coordinates?
Yes. Okay, so let's write an equation for each circle described below. Okay, so the center is at the origin. That means the center is at 0, 0. Once you have the coordinates of the center, the first coordinate is h, the second coordinate is k, and the radius is 5. Okay, so the formula for the radius of a circle is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. Oh. Okay, so if h is 0, x minus 0 is just x, so this will be x squared plus y minus 0, y squared, is equal to 5 squared, which is how much? 25. And that is the equation of that circle. Okay, so whenever you have center at the origin, this is always just going to be x squared plus y squared because it's going to be x minus 0 and y minus 0. Okay, let's do another one. Center at -1 and 3. This is h, this is k. So x minus h, so plus 1 squared, plus y minus 3 squared. And what's r squared? Just 11. So equals 11. Do you see how quick it is? There doesn't need to be a lot of work. Okay? All right. Now, the center is -2 and 4.
Wait, how did you just end up?
Just writing an equation.
Oh. What's the answer then?
And it says that it passes through -6 and 7. Okay, I have a center. Oh my gosh, I don't have a radius. Well, what am I supposed to do? I can find the radius using that point. Okay, if it's passing through this point, I call this x and y. And I'm going to use these, to find distance, which is the radius. Okay? So, how do I find the distance between those two? Let's do that. So, look at what I'm going to do. D squared is equal to, okay, so remember, let's do this. Don't write this for the time being. You know how D is the square root of x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared? So let me show you the shortcut. We're not going to do this. We're going to square both of these. So you get D squared is equal to x2 minus x1 squared plus y2 minus y1 squared. Okay, so just use that. So now, D squared is -6 plus 2 squared plus 7 minus 4 squared. Okay, so D squared is equal to 25. When you say D squared equals 25, that's the same as saying R squared is equal to 25. Okay, so let's get back to our circle equation. It's going to be, this is h and k, x plus 2 squared plus y minus 4 squared is equal to R squared, which is 25. Okay? Okay. Questions? Yeah. In here? Yeah. If you do that, it's like doing this. It'll just give you R squared. So you could have done that from the beginning once to get R squared, and then you do it again like this to write the equation. Okay? All right. Huh? So here we're given center and a point that it passes through, but we're not given radius. So we use the distance formula to find the radius. Oh yeah, so -6 plus 2, this is -4 squared is 16. 7 minus 4 is 3 squared is 9. 16 and 9 is 25. Okay. So here, let's graph. X squared plus y squared means what's the center? 0, 0, origin. Okay, so center is at 0, 0. And how much is the radius? That's R squared. Radius is 4, root 16. So the center is here. You're going to label that as C. And then you're going to go 4 units out from the center. You go horizontally and vertically 4 units out. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 4, 4, 4. And then you want to make a cute little circle here. Mine did not come out very pretty. I could have done much better. It's okay. I'm not gonna make you do it using a compass. Okay, my son's teacher makes them do a compass, but
Your son's in geometry?
he is.
Who's talking?
So, okay. Huh? So the center here is 2 comma negative 1. So 2 comma negative 1 right here. And then what's the radius?
3.
3. So I go 3 units out. 3 units out. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And let's do our circle. Okay. All right. Now, do you guys remember completing the square last year in Algebra 1?
No.
Okay. So let's do it together. Okay. So to complete the square, so here's what you do. So first of all, what is it that we're talking about when we say completing the square? If you have x squared plus 6x plus 9, right? And you want to factor that. How does this factor? It's x plus 3 and x plus 3. Okay. But you can also write that as x plus 3 squared. Okay? Now, but we were only able to do that, we were only able to factor this way because the original trinomial, the original expression, was built in a way that made us able to do that. And how does the trinomial look so that we're able to do that? Let's explore. Well, yeah, this is a perfect square. This is a perfect square. And this has a special quality. If you take the square root of the 9, what's that? 3. And if you multiply that number by 2, you have to get this. That's the special condition. That's the special pattern. So knowing that pattern, we can always take that number, take a square root, and double it. Or if I wanted to go back, I can take that 6, divide it by 2, what do I get? Square it, I get that. So I can always take that number, divide by 2, square. That number, divide by 2, square. Okay? So that's how we complete the square. So if you have x squared plus bx, we take this number, okay, and divide it by 2. So that gives us half of b. Okay? Then we square. So again, take that number, divide by 2, square. Okay? Now, suppose I have x squared minus 10x. Okay, so look at what we're going to do. We're going to take this number, divide by 2, that's 5, squared, that's positive 25. Okay? And then you can factor that as x minus 5 squared. Okay? All right. So let's do this one. Find the value of c that makes each trinomial a perfect square. Okay, so to find c, here's what we're going to do. You're going to take this number, divide by 2. What would you get? 11. And then square it, 121. So c is 121. So now, let's add it to this trinomial. It'll be x squared minus 22x plus 121. Now I can factor this. It'll be x minus 11 squared. Okay? All right. So all we want to do here is find C. So what's C here? 12 squared, which is 144. So this will be x squared plus 24x plus 144. Okay, what is C here? Is that right?
Yeah.
18 over 2 squared is 9 squared, 81. Okay, so go ahead and do the next two, but don't share your answers just yet. And if you get, sorry, if you get a fraction, just leave it in a fraction. Okay. For each circle with the given radius, okay, so we want to state the coordinates of the center and the measure of the radius, then we want to graph the equation. Okay, so this is given to you in standard form. What we want to do is we want to put it in the form that we know. Okay, this is all jumbled up. We want to write it up in, x minus h squared plus y minus k squared. So for that, we have to do completing the square. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is scan this. Take the constant over to the other side. All right, so here that's going to be equal to positive 3. Here, we're going to combine the x terms. So let's write those together. And we're going to do it like this. X squared plus 4x plus a number, just like that. Now, the y's is this one and this one. We're going to do plus y squared minus 6y plus a number equals 3 plus the blue number plus the green number. Okay? So, write the x terms together. X squared plus 4x plus a number. Y squared minus 6y plus a number. But how can we add two random numbers on one side of the equation without balancing it on the other side? We also have to add the two numbers on the other side. So now let's complete the squares for the blue and the green. What number is going to go here? What's C going to be? 4 divided by 2, 2, squared, 4. Also add it there. Here, 6 divided by 2, 3, squared, 9, 9. So now, here, when I factor that, I get x plus 2 squared plus, when I factor this, y minus 3 squared is equal to all these numbers, 15, 16, sorry. Okay? And this is the equation of the circle. Right? Do you see how magically it became an equation of a circle? So now what's the center? Negative 2 comma 3, and the radius is equal to 4. And I can go over here, negative 2 comma 3. And let's graph. Okay, graph that circle. All right, let's do another one. Okay, look at this one. The 4 is already on the other side. So here's how I do it. Look at how I do it. I have the equal sign here, and then the 4 is the constant is over there. All right, so here's how I do it. The x terms are these. So I say x squared minus 2x plus a number on the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So I do them together. And then the y's. I say plus y squared plus 4y plus a number. I add left and right at the same time. Okay? I've learned to do that as I got older, so I don't forget. Now, what number goes in the first blank? 1. How about in the second blank? 4. Don't forget to add them here. The most common mistake is a student will just forget to add them on the other side, but then you don't have a balanced equation anymore. So I factor this one, x minus 1 squared plus y plus 2 squared is equal to 9. Okay. Got my equation of a circle. What's the radius?
1 and 3.
1, I'm sorry. Yeah, the radius is 3, and then the center is 1, negative 2. Okay? We're all good with this? Yeah. Yeah.
How come it's positive 2 for the y plus 2 squared?
So it goes with this number and this sign. Okay? So what you do is you take the square root of this number, it's y. You take the square root of that number, it's 2. And then whatever that sign is of the 4y, that goes there. Okay? So here, the square root of that is x. Look, Rihanna, the square root of this one is x. The square root of this one is 1. Whatever that sign is, that's what goes in there.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So, okay, so 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. And please also always label these as C. Okay? All right. So we can stop here. That's the end.